Welcome to Writers Radio. I'm Carol Harmon, host and producer for the last of our three-part series based on the print anthology Dark Matter, Women Witnessing Dreams Before Extinction. The anthology is edited from the first 10 years of the online literary journal Dark Matter, Women Witnessing, which was founded by Lisa Weil in 2015. It has published authors and artists from around the globe in themed issues. Lisa and her team of editors featured in part one of this series in conversation with my co-producer, Ingrid Rose. For part 2 and 3, I chose one writer to represent each section of the anthology. All 3 episodes are podcasts on the Writers Radio website. The book is hefty, 570 pages, and covers many of the existential topics humanity is faced with today. The voices represented are varied and compelling. We begin this episode with Section 5, Songs of Undoing, represented by American priestess, grief worker, author, and educator JoJo Donovan, who reads from their long poem, Dispatches from the Collapse of Time. JoJo's work engages ritual and ceremony to support queer, animist, and embodied spiritualities in their re-emergence.
Dispatches from the Collapse of Time. Time is collapsing. Back in 2017, this message started knocking. I'd sit down to write, and strange passages would tumble out, with the collapse of time always at the center. The first passage came scrawled on a thin slip of paper, twisted and taped into a Mobius strip. So the passage had no ending or beginning, and instead circled around and through itself, the inside becoming the outside, and the poem playing itself on a loop. I called it a reading from the Book of Endings. Time is collapsing. Look around. You know it to be true. This frenzy, this fervor, it's not just a question of technology. Faster and faster moments arrive. The future scrambles, scurries, scrunches itself into the margins of the present. Call it hyperventilation, more time pumped through the vents than the body can manage, the world trapped in a wheezing in-breath. The next moment arrives before the last can be exhaled. Time is collapsing, arriving too fast. The lungs of the earth are strained past bursting. And worse, no time to breathe out, no chance to discharge. Loose moments settle in our lungs and on our bones. The living body must make dust, but with no future space to flake and float towards, the dead cells we slough now gather and pile and bury our limbs under one more layer of cast-off skin. One more layer, until our motions grow thick, heavy, slow with time. Memory coats our bodies soft and gray. Lifetimes of loss dust our lips dry, and the coarse grit of history scratches always at the backs of our throats. This doesn't help our breathing. Time is collapsing, a shock to the system. The center cannot hold. Don't ask what to do now. Now is sand sifted through the palm, a seaside phantom lost to wind and wave. Don't ask what happens next. Next is a caving tunnel, a last gold ray choked by smoke and rubble as the walls give way. It's time to find more useful questions. ones unbound from the time we no longer have. What is possible here? What shapes can our bodies take? How can we touch each other, and where? What could be born of this? Who is here to hold us through the birthing? Time is collapsing. Look around. You know it to be true.
The section, I Am Nothing Without My Dead, is represented by American artist and writer Nora L. Jamieson, who reads from her essay of the same title. Nora has counseled and gathered women for over 40 years in both healing and spiritual groups.
I am nothing without my dead. I dream, I dream, I dream. Following the instructions of a teacher, I look for my dead, their tracings in the old ways of my people. I study Scots Gaelic, in which I learned that my ancestors did not say my land, my house, my family, my. Other than for relatives and the body, they did not express possession in this way. They literally expressed connection by saying someone or thing is on me, with me, at me, an echo of all my relations. The dead are at me. They surely are. I try my hand at the drop spindle, the most ancient form of spinning. I hook the roving to the spindle, draw out the fibers, and spin the spindle sunwise. I imagine spinning the thread of creation as the spiral of energy travels up the wool. I pray to renew the world and make holy the daily life. I spin, I pray, all to weave myself back to them. I write, I sing. I call to my dead in their language. I introduce myself and the dog who is with me. I am trying to carry my dead and I don't know how. Some would say I am obsessed, and they would be right. Some would say it is a distraction. Perhaps. But this is what I know. It is the story that has conjured me my whole life, that has tried to plant itself in the stubborn soil of my heart, a heart harrowed by grief, both the proper grief that calls to those gone from my sight and the sorrowful wreckage that I inevitably caused when running from that grief. I search in the old way. I circumambulate. I circle around. I take the light and move around in this haunted house that I am, tracking my own dusty footprints, looking for signs of them. The light reaches deep in the corners. Shadows loom, and I wait. She shows herself in a dream. There is a wolf who is a woman, who is a wolf. She lives behind a wall in my mind. She steps out. She looks at me, and in her fierce gaze, she tells me to knock it off. This doubt, this worry. She has come a long way. She has been waiting for me and my lantern. There is work to take up. When she arrived, I do not know. Perhaps she was a seed, a dream, a song carried in the basket of my mother, that tiny pocket woven with flesh and blood, filled by otherworldly hands, the midwives of fate with oracles, with me. I am coming to know her, the one with a name only known to the spirits. How did they know that she, the one who lives behind the wall in my mind, would be needed just now, at just this time, for these times? She follows the tracks of the disappeared stories, the exiled names, the stolen children. She laments the lost heart. She might even return it to you. I see her. Her throat is open. There is a rope, a thread, an umbilicus, twisted by the spindle of stories we do not want to hear, but must. She is the throat woman, the spinning song woman. She wraps the lost, the missing, the forgotten in the silk of her spinning lament and brings them to the living. The pitted earth is the throat of the keening woman. The test pits, the uranium pit, the mined earth gouged with our longing. Out of the throat of the keening woman comes everything you did not know you longed for. Out of the throat of the keening woman comes everything we destroy in our innocent desire for a good life. She is the throat woman, the spinning song woman. She wraps the lost, the missing, the forgotten in the silk of her spinning lament and carries them home. But first, we must hear her cry, be shattered by the humiliation of her grief. Then maybe all will be whole. She is faithful. She has called to me through death, the flood of my own longing, the floating wreckage of history. Like luminous moths battering against the light in soul darkness, she is faithful. She is wolf. She is woman, howling. She spins the thread of return. Her throat is a whirlpool, her voice keening and wild. I heard her once in the death lodge, in the voices of rain and thunder, lightning. I thought I'd imagined it. She is of my people, the keening woman, and I belong to her. I walk up the hill in these small woods, and I lay down tobacco. I lay down cornmeal and mead. I pour whiskey, and I sing a morning song, and I ask her to teach me.
Wendy, or Gwen, Gorchinsky Lambo, works with the energy and patterns of water, sacred geometry, and an indigenous system of permaculture. At Terre Amie, or Earth Soul Sisters, her research center in Canada. Her essay, Making Love with a 3 Billion-Year-Old Woman, represents the section Healing with Land and Ancestors.
Making Love with a 3 Billion-Year-Old Woman. In spring of 2001, there was a 2-week period in which my life came undone. My business suddenly collapsed when my worm partner's wife died unexpectedly. An ecologically, socially responsible business venture I was involved in was being deceitful, and so was my lover. I had to evict my tenant, who was my lover, out of my home in the country, which was financing my living in the city for my children's education. The school, a Waldorf school, had a huge financial meltdown, which put a halt to my daughter's continuing there. I handled it all by crying, journal writing, meditating, and dancing for about 40 days. It was during this intensely stressful period that I started receiving a constant message in my head. It's in the water. It's in the water. The voice even woke me up at night, asking me to pay attention. It's in the water, it whispered. Then a Japanese friend showed up at my door one day, just back from a visit to Japan. She stood there with book in hand, hardly able to talk from jet lag. It's hot off the press, and I wanted you to be the first person to see it, she declared. The book was The Hidden Messages in Water by Dr. Masaru Emoto. No way, I screamed. That moment changed my life. The first thing I did was to go through the images, hoping to understand what Dr. Emoto was demonstrating. When I came to the 2 images on the following page, side by side, let's do it and do it, I got suddenly very frightened and I broke down sobbing. I'm even crying now as I think about it. The images demonstrated that our intentions, our thoughts and feelings, our scoldings and judgments have visible effect on water. The second image, which was do it, showed me speaking to my children. And in fact, speaking to everyone, because I was so damn tired and had taken on way too much as a single mother. I had been doing battle like every other activist I knew. I was giving all my energy to the dark side, which was the opposite of what I was trying to achieve. I saw that despite my good intentions of trying to provide the best of education, food, and mothering to my children, I was in fact providing a role model of exhaustion, negativity, and victimization. This is not a healing scenario for anyone, and this is not a healing scenario for our planet. 1 month later, I found myself packing to return to our home in the country. So much was redirecting me there now, as if I had no choice. The children were overjoyed, and they kissed the walls as the movers moved us in. My old gardens were all overgrown after 7 years, so I decided to put into place what we had learned about making avioles from the Ilnu of the Mi'kmaq Nation. Avioles are an extremely precise hexagonal surveying system that is aligned with the stars, the planets, and the telluric forces, the energy points of the Earth. The Ilnu used this memory system to work with the Mother, the Earth, and the cosmic, instead of dominating her, and they work it in everything they do and live. The Ilnu had taught me where to locate this grid and entrain myself to this wise map so that I could precisely align my garden with her, harmonizing with her rhythm. These hexagons are alive, and all parts of the alveoles are aspects of the female form. They guard the memory of sacred sexuality, the element of water within the tribe, both in their relationship with the Earth Mother and amongst themselves. Their adoration, their caresses of the soil and the plants and the flowers turn the wheels of transformation and communication with their Earth Mother and the other star beings out in the galaxies. This is a oneness consciousness that was lived by all a very long time ago. I am so grateful that the Ilnu I met have kept this flame alive for all of us. By now, I had discovered the book, The Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life, by Melchizedek in the year 2000. The Flower of Life design is the specific hexagonal grid that exists all over the planet's surface. This biogeometry creates a matrix field, which is nature's most efficient way of holding information. It's a kind of neuronet, a brain that feeds information about us and what we are truly feeling into water, which holds and transports all memory, as Dr. Emoto demonstrated. The Flower of Life hexagram is the same shape as that of a water crystal. Alveoles and the Flower of Life were the same sacred geometry.
Writer, naturalist, and advocate Susan Cerulean has lived alongside and listened to the northern Gulf of Mexico and its wild birds and islands since 1981. Her essay, Bear Requiem, represents the section, The Music of Grief.
Bear Requiem. Despite a court appeal, dozens of demonstrations, and 40,000 letters of protest, despite impassioned editorials in every major newspaper, and without regard for the opposition of 3/4 of the state's human population, nearly 300 wild black bears, including 36 lactating mothers, were gunned down in a recreational hunt in Florida from the northern panhandle to the Ocala National Forest in late October 2016. The event was strong-armed by the Florida governor and his appointed wildlife commissioners, a state-sanctioned slaughter of Florida black bears. We hoped the bears would be wily and escape the bullets of the hunters, but baited and tempted with corn, birdseed, and glazed donuts, they didn't stand a chance. How could we respond to the brutal slaying of animals only just recovering from threatened status? What gesture could we create to transform our grief and our outrage knowing that 60 traumatized and orphaned cubs still wandered the woods. How would we reset a moral compass in a state that presently appears to have none? In Tallahassee on November 21st, a group of musicians, artists, and spiritual leaders, mostly women, created a memorial service not much different than we might have had the mass murder targeted human victims. On the morning of the bear requiem, I dreamed of 8 bears with all manner of coats, some spotted, some gold, some brown. The animals pressed against the glass windows and doors of the church, gathering for our service. Our ritual began with a procession of artists wearing handmade masks, deer, bear, wolf, bird, creeping and stalking down a central aisle to the beat of a single somber drum. The artists carried a larger-than-life bear with a bejeweled head and a body sewn of tawny fabric. The bear was laid on a woodsy altar, overarched with tall bamboo and grapevine, and strewn with baskets of flowers, acorns, shells, and blueberries. Reverend Candace McKibben spoke of the many forms senseless human violence takes and the numbness it can create in our hearts. Many audience members openly wept. Buddhist practitioner Crystal Wakoa urged the audience to consider a perspective that seeks an opening of hearts, even those of hunters and politicians, so they might see themselves anew and change. The Ursine Chorale, a small a cappella group of women, sang a promise to never forget or forsake the earth's creatures, reworking a Becky Reardon song for the bears. The bear cubs remember a dream in September, alone with Mom, at one with all the woods. We honor your spirit. Forgive us. Forgive us. We designed the Requiem to help our community move through grief to a stance of advocacy and recommitment. Near the close of the ritual, we invited the audience to take part in a special communion. From baskets, we chose flowers to adorn the symbolic bear. We ate blueberries, sharing the sweet taste of a favorite bear food. And each of us selected a bear paw shell collected from a local beach, a reminder of our pledge to stand with the bears.
Juliana Borrero Echeverry is a Colombian writer, translator, performance artist, and university lecturer. Her essay, Landscapes at the End of the World, represents the final section of the anthology, What It Takes to Breach.
Landscapes at the End of the World. Fragment 7. Put your mouth into this bucket of apples, said the snake, and find one that is not rotten. This apple is not a nuclear weapon. This apple is not a war machine. The seeds of this apple have not been registered. Its taste is woody, reminiscent of plums, with a slight narcotic effect and the touch of smoked guajillo peppers. Its meat has not been modified by anxiety, anguish, or chronic depression. This apple is not one woman murdered in Mexico every 2.5 hours. This apple is not another social activist murdered in Colombia. This apple is not the mind devoid of the body. This apple is not language in its capacity to build sense. This apple is not a square deal. This apple is not a satanic dance. It's not an anonymous threat. This apple will not save you. Bite it, digest it. This apple has crossed the Andes mountain chain in flip-flops with a mattress on its back. This apple never thought it would have to do this. This apple will give you a blowjob for $7 behind the supermarket. This apple is not lying. This apple is hungry. This apple has nowhere to go. This apple is angry. This apple is not afraid. This apple remembers the ancient Chinese recipe for gunpowder. This apple is very old. This apple has eyes but no mouth with which to scream. After a slumber of 100 years, the Sleeping Beauty woke up, and the first thing she did after opening her eyes was get a divorce. Immediately after, she formed an organization of angry women called Devotees of the Church of the End of the World, with the following slogan: never again will you keep quiet for 100 years. Transform or perish. What is already dead, let it finish its dying. Anger is your blessing. Destroy what you hate. Don't come to us. We'll come to you. We're sorry, but sometimes all we have left is violence. A little destruction is healthy after centuries of discontent. After ages of abuse, one becomes a terrorist without knowing. It's a natural process. Would you like to see my shiny claws? Don't get too close or I'll knock your head off with a stick. Fragment 11. Dear Lisa, you're not going to believe me, but after more than 40 days in which I have had all the time to write, I have only written unsent versions of this email, in which I excuse myself for not being able to write about extinction illness, as we agreed in our conversations among mosquitoes and bullfrogs in the rainy Rawdon forest. The Amazon is burning and I am broken. The peace process in my country is fucked once again, and I am full of disillusion. Things seem darker than ever. We are in the hands of a system with no eyes, no heart, no empathy, that thrives on abuse and ambition. I feel embarrassed and sad. It is a dying system, so blind, so out of date, so profoundly ignorant, walking towards its own end. I cannot be part of this anymore. It seems more and more urgent to say something, but my words are paralyzed. The censor inside harasses me, saying that writing is not enough, as I make myself write this. I wonder if the only thing we can do is watch as the world walks itself down the plank and then push. Meanwhile, continue our invisible clandestine work, activating bodies and empathies, inventing forms of hope, so that we can study life in all its resilience, its diversity, its languages, embodying sensitive ways of knowing and freedom. Because as this world walks over the edge, I finally found the courage to get a divorce from too many years of disguised violence and manipulation I had been afraid to put a limit to. My son is falling in love for the first time. My cousin is single father to a newborn baby. My sister is embracing his real body as a transgender man. And I am looking for an artistic voice that will have the power to express all this. In the end of the world, we meet on the surface of an open wound. We spend much of our time loving and healing. The wound requires different ways of knowing. It brings us together in new ways. The wound makes me realize how tender we are. It makes us realize how strong we are. It makes us realize how many we are, working invisibly and contagiously. Together around the wound, we are constructing a new form of hope or resistance, which in the end of the world is the same thing.
You have been listening to the final episode of a 3-part series of readings from the 2025 anthology, Dark Matter, Women Witnessing, Dreams Before Extinction, featuring readings by JoJo Donovan, Nora Jamieson, Wendy Gorchinsky Lambo, Susan Cerulean, and Juliana Borrero Echeverry. The anthology was published by Nature Culture. Lisa Weil and her team of editors, Jillian Goslinka, Kristen Flintz, and Anne Bergeron, created the anthology from 10 years of the online literary journal Dark Matter Women Witnessing. You can order it from the journal's website, darkmatterwomenwitnessing.com. Writers Radio is a non-profit creative project of Ingrid Rose and Carol Harmon editorial and Gary Sill music and sound production. All Writers Radio programs are also podcasts, available on the Writers Radio website or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks so much for listening.
You have been listening to Writers Radio, a non-commercial collaborative project which presents talented writers reading their own work. These stories, essays, and conversations revisit the long tradition of oral storytelling that connects us to the inspiration behind the words. Be sure to check the website, writersradio.ca, to subscribe to our free notifications list. It's also a way of letting the writers know you are there and appreciating their creative work.
Writers Radio broadcasts from Half Moon Bay on the Sunshine Coast in Canada, traditional tribal land of the Sechelt Nation of the Coast Salish peoples. We express our gratitude for their wisdom teachings and land stewardship.